Joint enterprise is being used to charge and prosecute entire...
Joint enterprise.
No, gang violence in
100 years old means someone could be jailed for life for being part of a group responsible for murder, even if they didn't carry out the killing.
One of my friends was carrying a knife. You kind of felt let down.
Then they come out and say guilty, and your whole world changes.
These young people have all been accused under the law of joint enterprise. But are these individuals innocent or guilty by association? An everyday stroll down the street spirals out of control. But what really happened? Who is left accountable for such an act?
I just couldn't believe that this was happening. I thought it's too extraordinary that you can get someone against whom you have no evidence at all, who can spend 18 months on remand.
Joint enterprise is an immensely powerful piece of legislation. If you're caught up in a murder, you don't have to be the party who inflicted the fatal blow. The ancient law, dating back over 300 years, has seen an increase in media coverage as of lately, and arguably a rise in its application, with more than 1,800 people sentenced for homicide in the last 8 years alone. But how reliable is a law which apparently sentences both the guilty and the innocent?
Jordan suffered from keratoconus, which means the eyes, and it was both of his eyes, they become conical shaped. When my son was 15 years old, he was out with his friends one day, and as the evening drew to a close, he was on his way home. All of his friends were on the way home, and someone caused some vandalism to a mini digger. However, an argument did ensue, and two of the boys, one of them jabbed him to the side of the face, and the man sort of went to go for one of the kids on the street, and he slipped, and as he was falling to the ground, another boy kicked him quite severely in the neck. Sadly, the victim died 2 days later.
The victim here being father of three, Gary Newlove, killed outside of his home in July 2007. Since the incident, Newlove's widow, Helen Newlove, has campaigned against the antisocial behaviour and culture she blamed for the death of her husband, and has since assumed her position of Victims Commissioner for England and Wales in the House of Lords.
Nobody understands the pain you go through, and until it's actually changed the law of this land, we're never going to get the justice that we want.
The police decided to arrest 25 people that night, and I actually thought this was a case of whittling down who'd done what, who the person who kicked the man was, and that would be the end of it.
He's done nothing, and he's done even less.
Not letting my son plead guilty to something he didn't do.
Joint enterprise has also played its part in current TV dramas, such as Jimmy McGovern's Common, as seen on the BBC.
The trouble with the joint enterprise is it's common law, so it's not in statute. It hasn't gone through the process of discussion and debate in Parliament, which a law would normally go through.
We need to get these people out of prison. More and more people had been convicted under this joint enterprise, which I had no idea existed until it happened to my friend Quentin Spayu. We have this corruption that's going on, and the British people need to wake up and start joining up the dots.
I want my boy out of prison, and I want the boy I saw the other day out of prison. I want Timmy out of prison, I want Dean out of prison, I want all these people out of prison because they should not be there.
Under the doctrine of joint enterprise, all participants of a crime, regardless of who inflicted a fatal injury, can be held liable. But how accurate and how fair is a law which effectively seeks to prove one guilty by association?
You can imagine if it's somebody you love or your brother or sister that gets murdered, or your son or your daughter or your parents or anyone close to you, the feeling that you have is that the law is, it's a damn good thing the law's there. They were all in it, let them all get it. And you can understand when people talk like that. On the other hand, you can understand equally that you shouldn't be just dragging people in, because it's a kind of primitive way to dispense justice, and it's not dealing with a problem.
The fact that the 3 judges have just acquitted 2 men, young men, of murder.
Jared shouldn't be in there. Stephen shouldn't be in there for murder.
What would it mean to you tomorrow if your son gets acquitted?
It just, I don't know. I don't know what it'd mean.
The really big problem with the law of joint enterprise is that you can be convicted of a murder without having to prove intent. In joint enterprise, as a secondary participant, you can be deemed to be equally responsible as the person who plunged the knife or pulled the trigger.
Oh, shit. Should we run away? I don't know. What are we going to do? Come on, let's leave him, come on.
I think you need a law that can be used in an absolutely just way to convict groups of people who are equally complicit in a crime. There are very few statistics on how the law is used, when it's used, who it's used against. Almost nothing. It is a law that allows for... they're not miscarriages of justice because the law is seen to have been observed. It's worse than that. They're carriages of justice, but it's justice that's wrong.
With its fairness being questionable and so many opinions and emotions tied up within this law, the topic can easily become convoluted. Where does the future lie for such a debate?